May I please have your full and undivided attention? It is time for the Paranormal Rundown. Hello, this is Cedric Dankworth-Smythe. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all fans of the paranormal, the supernatural, the unusual, the entertaining, the terrifying, the horrifying, and those things that go bump in the night and in the daytime too. This is the one and only Paranormal Rundown, where the lads, the gang of nerds, choose from over 2,700 carefully curated paranormal topics. During tonight's recording, the lads covered 24 total topics, including Golden Mice and Hemorrhoids. Yes, you heard that correctly. The recent attempt at a black mass in the Kansas state capitol. It was thwarted. Jeepers Creepers. Various Earth lights. Chung Ling Soo, who died while trying to catch a bullet in his teeth. That is an occupational hazard. Plus, flatulence as entertainment. Get your nose guards ready, and come along for the Paranormal Rundown, Season 2, Episode 18. I assure you, it'll be a ripping good time.
Hello, everybody. This is Vic Hermanson with Season 2, Episode... Sorry, Dave.
18.
What? 18 of the Paranormal Rundown. Now, this season's going to be 24 episodes, correct?
I think so. Yeah. 23 or 24 at least. Yeah.
24 episodes, because we did the 4 best of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, we owe you 20 full listing episodes, and now the Paranormal Rundown list has over 2,710 topics. You know, that's true insanity, that somebody would sit down and list out 2,710 paranormal topics, or at least kind of paranormal topics. And
I love how Vic is diagnosing himself. Self-diagnosis of insanity. That's awesome.
I like that.
It's just, why would anybody do that? I don't know.
I don't know, Vic. Why would anybody do that?
I believe we have a pretty good starting list, and I'm just going to go with that. And so
Excellent.
I want everybody to hear what I have to say here. Okay, so topic 1, gold mice and hemorrhoids. Ashdod and Philistines. I'm looking at the Excel spreadsheet. I'm hoping somebody's chuckling at least.
The gold mice and hemorrhoids. I'm like, what the hell?
I'm not sure we want to touch that one, but keep going. Keep going.
That's
I know Father Mike
title.
would like to, but
I'm sorry.
Topic 2. That's in the Bible. Topic 2. Why would anyone become a Satanist? Topic 3, reptilian facial changes on TV. Topic 4, our species is now Homo social mediensis. That was a good sound. This is a terminal evolutionary state. Please discuss. Number 4, Ambrose Bierce. And number 5, where did I get... I got off. I got off. Number 6, Ekbom's syndrome, which is the belief that insects are crawling under one's skin.
well, I have a preference right out of the gate.
Just as long as
2 or 3.
And one of them, you just don't want to discuss hemorrhoids with me at all, right?
I really, you can fight for that one. That's fine.
No, go ahead.
But, there are some current events around Satanists. Why would someone be a Satanist is an interesting topic.
Uh-huh.
And so there's some stuff going on in Kansas we could talk about. And then the second one, I've set up this X account, and I've just flipping through all these people we followed, and I watched a video last night that was 5 minutes long or a couple minutes long of face slips for lizard people. So that's an interesting one too.
Okay, before we do that, we're at least going to tell the audience what I mean when I say gold mice and hemorrhoids.
Have at it, Vic.
I'm just using the AI overview in Google. The phrase gold mice hemorrhoids refers to a biblical story in 1 Samuel 5:6, where the Philistines, afflicted with a plague and tumors, offer golden images of mice and emerods, spelled E-M-R-O-D-S, which some translations interpret as hemorrhoids, as a guilt offering to the Israelite god after the Ark of the Covenant was returned. So, the reason I've always found that story interesting is I know how to properly draw a mouse. I don't know how to properly draw a hemorrhoid.
I guess you have to draw by feel.
You know, a clearly artistic representation of a hemorrhoid. I guess you're right. You draw by feel, but
but they offered these things up as an offering. Gold mice and hemorrhoids. Were they drawing hemorrhoids? Were the hemorrhoids golden?
I guess they were cutting them.
I have no idea. I've just always thought that was one of the... I can remember reading that in the Bible when I was about 11.
I know the story. I mean, yeah, it was...
You know, what's... And I can remember going to Sunday school class, like, what's an emerald?
Something you won't have to worry about for many, many years.
Yeah, but when you do...
Yes.
You'll never forget it.
You'll feel like you're in hell.
Anyway, that wonderful topic, Vic.
Yeah, but that just shows that, you know, if you read your Bible carefully, there's some very strange stuff in the Bible.
Oh, yes.
Very, very strange stuff.
Josh, just for kicks, just for my kicks, I'm sorry, guys. I got to do it. I just got to do it. Take Vic's topic of golden mice and hemorrhoids, put it in Google, but add and rabbits in it. Let's see what AI says about that.
AI won't know anything, I don't think. Or it'll say, oh, I see Father Mike is back.
Yes, that is.
I still have the pic that one of you guys sent to me on my phone, by the way, of the woman laying in bed and all the rabbits beside her. I still.
Oh, that was me. I did that in AI.
I still have that pic. I've gone way off base. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, Dave. So tell me, why do people become Satanists?
So from my perspective, you have two major categories of Satanists. You have your, atheist and your theist Satanists. Your atheist Satanists, the entire reason they're there is to rebel against even the idea of God in Christianity. So they're trying very hard to live a life that does not involve God, and in order to show that they're as far away from God as possible, they pick up the torch of Satanism in something like the Satanic Church or one of the other groups that claims that it is an atheist group. A lot of these Satanist groups they have nothing to do with Satan as an actual physical being. It is all allegory, and it represents something against God. But then you have the groups that are theists that actually believe in Satan, and I think that is a completely different ballgame. You're talking about either they're rebelling against God, they've had something hard in their life, and they don't want to have anything to do with God because of it, or they've somehow been influenced to do that.
The last group that you described, a lot of those people can be reached at times because they did face some kind of disappointment or a setback or
Mm-hmm.
a loss of a loved one and just got pissed off at God and just gave up. However, the first group that you described is the ones that really just aggravate me to no end because they just want to rebel and they want one thing that was left out, in my opinion, was they just want attention. And they don't know what they're dealing with, which leaves them in all kind of danger. And that's the way I view a lot of one of our political parties today. They have sold out. They want attention. They willingly go against everything biblically just to gain attention to themselves and gain power. Those are the types of ones that will let me put it this way. You guys spoke about the demon at the crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those are the type of people that will be at the crossroad and say, do you want fame and fortune? Well, yeah. All right. Come with me. That's where we got to be very careful with.
I don't know that I've known a lot of Satanists in my life. What about you guys?
I have not known any true Satanists. I recall. I've known a lot of Wiccans. I've known a lot of people involved in magic, witchcraft, but not that were associated themselves with a satanic organization.
Right.
Yeah, I've never known anyone that was a proclaimed Satanist. I have friends that were Wiccans, but that's about it.
Yeah. And some agnostics. I mean, but that's neither here nor there right now.
Well, and I've told you before, I read the Satanic Bible when I was a teenager.
Right.
And, it was nothing really about Lucifer or Satan. It was more about, individual freedom and, not being, everything was about the self.
Well, and that's why I say that part, this may be worthy to discuss in this situation too, because that part, it didn't focus a lot on Satan. It focused a lot on self, which I believe, with the other guy, I can't think of his name. Yeah. Hubbard,
Ron Hubbard.
Ron Hubbard.
The Scientology
guy. I believe that Satanic Bible, so to speak, and it led right into Hubbard with the Christian Scientist crap. Scientology.
No. He was Scientology.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Scientology.
Scientology, and he had another thing there for a while called Dianetics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's all about self and self-power. No mention of salvation anywhere except for self and mind.
And so with people who are the atheistic Satanists, there's no need for salvation.
True.
There is this idea. I mean, they have an interesting idea
view, yeah,
that is, increase your knowledge, gain wisdom, right? And even better society. There are concepts in there, but they're godless. It is dependent on the self, and it's trying to create some sort of moral framework in the absence of God.
Mm-hmm.
And that, we see this with everything. You take God away, as humans, we still crave God. We still crave something to replace that God in our life.
I believe there is a void there. And if you will not believe in God, you'll believe in just about anything else.
Yeah.
And I think that's how the quote goes. You'll believe in in just about anything.
Yeah. You're gonna serve someone or something.
That's right. You go back to the Bob Dylan song.
Right. And case in point, I mean, you can look at the life of Solomon, the son of David. Solomon becomes king. He's well established. He's well established in his covenant with God, and he asked God for just one thing, and that was wisdom. And God said, because you have asked this, you'll be granted that, and you will prosper. Okay? Now, there's a danger in that as well. What happened with Solomon for a while? When we go off on our own and we seek our own wisdom, there came a point in Solomon's life to where he was not leaning toward the wisdom of God, but toward the wisdom of man. And it almost destroyed him until the end when he thought better of himself.
Right.
So there you go. And sadly, that is the case of some of the quote unquote, I call them wannabes. These wannabe atheists, these wannabe Satanists that's just doing it because they think it's cool, where they lead themselves down a path of utterly destruction in their life because they get involved in rituals, they get involved in sacrifices, they get involved in they damn them own selves to a point of just about no return. And I'm not just talking spiritually wise, I'm talking physically. There's dangers there. I don't know
how much there is from a sacrifice standpoint in the atheistic Satanists, but they do have rituals that have intended outcomes, because magic does become involved at a certain point in some of them.
Right.
But I think most of these folks, again, it's rebellion, and they've latched on to the image of Baphomet, the concept of Satanism as an outlet for that rebellion. And look, we're sticking it to those Christians who, were so judgmental as we were growing up. I understand that. I mean, I do get that. But I think there's a lot of harm in that. And so in this case, Kansas City, they've scheduled the Satanic Grotto has scheduled a black mass to consecrate the city of Kansas City to Satan. Now, I went to their website. I could not find whether they were theistic or atheistic. I could not find it without signing up for something, paying for something, getting some additional materials. It's not explicit on their, they talk about following the left-hand path, which is about magic, not necessarily about Satan. As I did a little research on that, which is sort of that chaos magic versus structured white magic type of thing. But they did not explicitly say whether they were worshiping Satan or not. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but it's playing with fire in my mind.
Well, exactly. And I've brought this up before, and I don't know if you guys have ever watched it, but when we talk about things like this, as much as I don't agree with Hollywood, I always agree that whatever I'm watching, there's some truth in it.
All right. So, how many people are planning to attend the Satanic Consecration?
I don't know. It's, there's a lot of people that don't want it to happen. This is where you get into it's in Kansas City.
It's in Kansas City.
The article that I posted.
Let's see. Kansas City. It's the Kansas State House.
Like the Kansas State Legislature building?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So what they've got is a black mass scheduled for March 28th
Yeah,
at
that's
the
it.
Kansas State House, which I assume is in. Well, no, is Kansas City where that's at, or is that in? Boy, I should know this. Is it Topeka, Kansas?
I think
that's the capital.
I think Topeka is the capital.
Yeah, I think so. So it's probably not in Kansas City. I just,
Kansas City is not even in Kansas. Kansas City. Let's see.
Well,
West
it spans Kansas and
West Kansas City is in Kansas.
Yeah.
But the bigger part of
splits.
Kansas City is in Missouri.
Yep. So not Kansas City. Sorry about that. Yeah, this was in the Topeka Capital Journal. So now it's going to be a 4-part ritual dedicating the grounds and the legislature to the glory of Satan. So now here's the question. Does free speech and freedom of religion allow this?
I mean,
there's danger there.
Religion, I mean, of course, we know better, but society.
Yes. And that's a debate that's being done right now by podcasters online is is this an expression of freedom of religion? Should they be able to do this? And one argument is that the Constitution and the founders, it's under God. The United States was intended to be a Christian nation. And so that freedom of religion was within the context of Christianity, and Satanism would, just be abhorrent to them, that we would allow for a government site to be consecrated to Satan.
Would the would the idea of Satanism even be present in the mind of someone like Thomas Jefferson?
Yes. I think Satanism has been around forever, right?
I'm going to disagree. I don't think that would have been part of the 1758 zeitgeist.
So, when were the witch trials?
Oh, they were early. They were earlier
in England, right?
Yeah,
so
they were definitely earlier, though. But witches were something that you handled in a very specific and non-ambiguous way.
Correct.
You didn't allow witches to dominate any aspect of society.
Right.
Or even
My
people
point
you thought
is,
were witches.
Who did they think those witches were serving?
Oh, they would have thought they were serving Satan.
Therefore, they are the equivalent of Satanists. So, I say that he may not have called it the Satanic Church or Satanists, but the idea of people following Satan would have been in their mind. That would have been part of it. It just was a much more minimized part of society.
Oh, this is an interesting rabbit hole. I mean, one of the things that they would do is when a witch confessed, they would get the witch to write down or dictate all of those things that they did in furtherance of serving Satan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they would do things like saying, well, our coven was all about fornicating. So Monday we would fornicate with men. Tuesday we would fornicate with ghosts who were given temporary bodies. Wednesdays we'd fornicate with dragons. And of course, come Friday we got to, Satan didn't have time to fornicate with all of us, but we got to kiss parts of Satan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Josh, you must have read about this this stuff. I mean, they
Oh, yeah.
came up
I
with
mean,
the most ridiculous statements of what they did.
Oh yeah, I mean that's like the Hellfire clubs over in Europe. Even although there's no evidence that he was an actual member, but there's evidence that even Benjamin Franklin visited the Hellfire Club caves.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Hmm.
So, that said, we're clearly looking at something that they would have had experience with within common governmental knowledge and societal knowledge.
Yes,
You know,
we are.
do they think it is a major problem? Maybe not. Maybe it's a foregone, and that's sort of my point. It may be a foregone conclusion that, well, this just isn't an issue. Everybody assumes that this is a Christian nation and it's under God. This whole Satanism thing isn't really a problem. But it would have been at least part of their context. Is something like this covered under freedom of religion?
Well,
Freedom
look,
of speech?
I would say no. And the reason why I would say no, if there's any blood sacrifice, I'm talking about the extremists. If there's any blood sacrifices to where something or someone loses their life, that is not covered. And nor should it be, because there's a life lost. And you guys know as well as I do, and all of our listeners know just as well as I do, yes, there are babies and young women, virgins, that are being killed. There's women having babies to sacrifice upon the altars of the true Satanist. That, number one, is illegal in our country. So,
Well, I would assume that
no, it
if
should
they're going to
not.
have a black mass at the state
Black mass.
house in Topeka, Kansas, that there's not going to be a sacrifice there.
and if they do, Kansas has submitted themselves to the darkness of man,
Yeah.
and God
Well,
have mercy on them.
I don't think that's going to be an issue. I do think that, you know, they will be doing something representative, perhaps, of a sacrifice. I don't know what their mass is going to look like.
Case in point, let me share this with you guys since we're on the subject. Several years ago, Sonia and my intercessors that I have at the church, we had a mosque in Thomaston, Upson County.
Hmm.
And I was not going to stand for it because I heard some of them speak before. Okay, I'll just let that be. They were some of the extremists, and I said I want y'all to go by there once a week, twice if possible. Pray against that. Sprinkle holy water on the property as you drive by. Don't go on the property, just from the side of the road, sprinkle holy water on it.
drive-by sprinklings.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly what they called it, Vic. I mean, seriously, ask Sonny, drive-by sprinklings or dousings, so whatever they said. But they said we're gonna do a drive-by. But anyway, I gotta tell you guys, within 1 month, that place shut down. However, another church went in there, and some of their members actually tried to get the leader to let us come over there and exercise the property, but he wouldn't have anything to do with it. I'm like, okay, sorry. So then all of a sudden they started having dead animals thrown upon their property.
By whom?
Really?
And I mean cut from
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, look, there's obviously no discernible damage physically
Yeah.
from a drive-by sprinkling.
No.
I'm sorry, guys. I have in my mind this video playing.
I do too.
Of Father Mike driving the car.
No,
Josh,
it's
in the side passenger seat
with the super soaker.
super soaker.
super soaker. I mean, there's multiple super soakers. I mean,
Go, Dad, go!
no, take that. Josh isn't laughing. Josh, are we offending you?
No, he's looking at something. Josh, we're gonna get you a super soaker, and we're gonna do some drive-bys.
No. If we're gonna do that, we're gonna go all out. I'm just gonna go by and grab an old fire truck full of.
That's exactly what I'm
with
thinking.
The hose.
you know. Have you seen
Bless
the
the
Jeepers
truck and?
Have you seen the Jeepers Creepers movie where the guy takes the truck and he builds this big bow and arrow thing on the back using a 12-foot long steel arrow?
This is the second time Jeepers Creepers has come up this week, and I haven't seen it. I don't remember
either.
it. I'm going to have to watch that movie.
Yeah,
You've never seen Jeepers Creepers?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
It's a really good, low-budget horror movie.
Check
Very
that out.
clever, very smart.
Excellent.
Is this the one to where at the beginning of one of them, there's some, I guess they were high school kids on a bus?
Yep, it's not at the beginning. Yeah.
The
Well,
first
you've got the first one, the beginning of it is a guy and his sister driving home from college in some old beater car. A bad car. And both of their cell phones are dead. And then a huge van with a license plate that says, "Be eating you," starts to terrorize them and goes around them. When they get to a particular farm, they see this van and there's a guy shoving a body down into the cellar.
Okay.
And it gets worse from there.
But then the second one was the kids on the bus, right? And
the kids on the bus come
and
right. The kids in the bus come later in that particular show.
Okay.
And then in the second one, it's much more about attacking kids on buses.
Okay.
Wonderful.
I remember it vaguely. I'll have to rewatch it.
I'm gonna put it in the category of very much worth spending a Friday evening on.
I agree. Because like I said, guys, it's Hollywood, yeah. But for the open-minded, more spiritual person, there's a lot of truth in those things. I told you guys before, if you've never watched season 1 of the series that came out, The Exorcist, you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Those are good series.
it shows our state of our country to the T.
Wait a minute! I didn't even know about this series.
Oh yeah,
You haven't seen it?
Oh man,
I didn't even know it existed.
It had two seasons. I was so disappointed when it got canceled.
Because it was going against the darkness.
Is this a documentary type?
No, it's a series.
Drama.
It's a drama. Yeah.
Okay.
It is a continuation of the original Exorcist storyline.
Yeah.
That takes place when Reagan is an adult and has children. You don't find that out until later in the series, so you don't find that out officially. And I didn't make the connection myself. Especially the first season was really well done.
Oh yeah, the first you would from the beginning you would think it was one of her granddaughters, but it wasn't. It was actually the other one. And I can't say any more but when it starts with the government and the hierarchy of the church, you're going to say, "Damn."
Oh yeah.
That's
And the
going to be your
second
words.
season had a completely different underlying plot.
It was good,
but
though.
it also was interesting because it really it struggles with the idea of what is obeying God and following God's plan for a priest versus what feels right.
I call that in the. I'm not going to call him an ex-priest because I don't believe in ex-priest. It follows the struggle of his part and the struggle of man, and it covers the struggle of the young priest going in too deep.
Well, and being unconventional about how he is performing these exorcisms.
Yeah, and there's two sides to that because I want to argue both sides. Yeah, it was good, but but it was good.
That's why it was such a good plot line.
It was
because it does. It covers you. You feel for him. You understand why he's doing what he's doing. Yeah, so highly recommended. You've got to watch that series.
All right, yes. I'll get to it. I see it here. I never knew it existed.
It is wonderful. It is wonderful. Season 1
well,
is
to reel us back.
They're both good.
Yeah, I'm trying to reel us back here, but you go ahead, Dave, and then I'll do my reeling later.
Well, just to this overall idea of consecration of a state capitol building. Now, again, assuming there's nothing illegal being done here.
Assuming,
but
yes.
What does
and I would assume that. I think that's a fair assumption.
What does the word consecration mean, though? It means it's setting apart. That's what consecration means. It's setting apart for Satan's purposes.
Right. So
they're damning a state.
This is the challenge with freedom of religion. And you could have a Satanist group go in and consecrate it on Friday to the devil. You could have a Catholic group go in on Sunday and consecrate it to God. You could have a Buddhist group go in and do a meditation in there, and a Hindu group go in on Thursday. I mean, what does all of that mean? What does that do to the physical land? What does it do to the governmental organization behind it?
Chaos. And that's
yes.
Chaos.
I looked up Cotton Mather. You guys remember Cotton Mather?
I don't.
Okay. What's that now?
I said it sounded familiar.
Okay, one of the most important families in the founding of the United States, of what became the United States, was the Mather family from New England. You had Cotton Mather, you had Increase Mather. These were, sure enough, hardcore Puritans and hardcore Puritan genius scholars. So I think the church that would be most closely associated with Mather back then, and I could be very wrong about this, was what they would have called the Congregationalist Church.
Okay.
But this was a true fire and brimstone.
Yeah.
Cotton Mather, or Increase Mather, I think Increase was the son of Cotton, voted for the execution of witches directly.
The Congregationalist churches would remind you of for those of us in the eastern side of the states, especially around the Appalachians, of the old Pentecostal churches.
Okay. That may be what it was, but it says Mather and his fellow New Englanders believed that God directly intervened in the establishment of the colonies and that the New World was formerly the devil's territory. Cotton Mather's account of witch trials reinforced colonial New Englanders' view of themselves as a chosen generation of man. So the whole idea of God blessing this land and blessing the people on this land was very much a part of the beginning of the United States.
Yes, because you had that, and unfortunately, a lot of people were put to death wrongly. But then, alongside with that, you had two people by the name of John Wesley and George Whitefield.
Yes, absolutely.
In the 1700s, that from Savannah to the very tip of North America that swept our country with the gospel of Christ. And it literally changed a nation. And with that being said, of course, when that happens, they're dead and gone now, right?
Oh yeah.
And there's very little to take their places or desire to take their places to keep it this way. So therefore, we do go into the argument of church and state being separate now, or the separation of church and state. So,
Well, but
Dave,
that particular phrase never occurs in the Constitution. There
you're
is not that
right.
phrase.
You're right.
There's the phrase of, this nation will not establish an official religion,
Right.
but it won't prevent anyone else from practicing whatever religion they want to practice.
But everyone wants to discuss the separation of church and state. So the people that are wanting to do a black mass at the city government building in Kansas, that would be, I would say, violation of church and state. If they really want to call themselves a church and want to go in this governmental building that says so and so, then they should stand up and say no.
This is the Capitol building of the state of Kansas.
Yes.
Okay. It was designed by so-and-so architect. Construction started in 1859. Whatever. This is the capital of Kansas. This is the property of the people of the state of Kansas.
Exactly. And I can guarantee you in 1859 that in Kansas, that building was dedicated by the Church of God. And I can guarantee it. I don't know if it was, but I can probably guarantee you it was.
I'm almost certain it was.
And I mean, that's just like the church.
All government buildings would have been.
Yeah, the church that I pastor now, the old 200-year-old church. It was the first church in Thomaston, Upson County.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on the doggone square. Dave, you've seen it. It's right on square.
I have.
Yeah.
It's a whole series of buildings.
Yeah, and it's part of the city.
I was almost right. It was built between 1866 and 1903.
Right at the end of the Civil War, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right at the end of the Civil War.
Well, I think it's interesting to struggle with the idea, the two aspects of this. One being, should something like this be allowed? Right, and that's one concept. The same thing would be, if you don't allow this, does that mean you don't allow, a Catholic priest to go in and consecrate the ground?
Well, truth be known, probably 95% of American population, if you look at it, it may be a little bit lower than 95%, but probably 95% of American population would look at it and say, heck no.
Oh yeah. That would be the.
I think you're really overestimating.
It may be lower.
80%. I'll say 80% then.
I think you're really overestimating.
Josh, look up the statistics of religion.
So, I think that I bet you 55% of the United States population would oppose this, and I bet 45%. I bet 40% would say, I don't care. Let them do what they want to do. And 5% would say, go Satan.
Yeah, well, that's that. I kind of put those first two together. You with me?
Right, but to be clear, I think there's at least 40% of this country that just, they don't care. That's not their problem.
Especially since COVID. Yeah.
Okay.
What's the current breakdown, Josh?
2023-2024 religious landscape study. 62% of the U.S. adults describe themselves as Christians. 40% are Protestant. 19% are Catholic. 3% are other.
Put them all together and give us a number, Vic.
29% are religious. religiously unaffiliated, 5% are atheists, 6% are agnostic, 19% identify religiously as nothing in particular.
So 25% would be against us.
7% belong to religions other than Christianity. 2% are Jewish, 1% are Muslim, Buddhist, or Hindu, etc.
So
somewhere probably around 0.5 to 1% of the population is going to end up being called either
against
satanic or satanic temple or Wiccan or something along those lines. Less than 1% of the population.
Correct. And I hate to bring it up.
Low.
I hate to bring it up again though, but Dave would agree with me. That's another reason why you need to watch The Exorcist season 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that
This is one of those moments where I feel like I've just been dropped into a world that I didn't belong in.
Because really,
because I'm thinking, how was I totally unaware that there was a TV show about The Exorcist? Deriving from that movie. How did that happen? It seems like
it was a while back too.
But somebody would have mentioned it to me.
I did a couple of years ago, but I mean,
wow!
It was during one of our sessions, and I mean, let's go, guys, and we forget half what we say anyway.
Well, yeah.
I remember everything.
Oh, okay.
What was that?
All right.
What was that again?
All right, Garcia.
Well, I keep trying to think.
Vic?
What do I think about the consecration of the Capitol for a Black Mass?
Yeah.
How do you do a Black Mass at the Capitol? Where do you do that? Do you get to use the auditorium? Do you?
That's a good question.
Do you get to bring in your? I don't know. What do you need for a Black Mass?
Do you really want to know what a real Black Mass is?
Well, I've seen.
It entitles a blood sacrifice and the drinking of human blood.
Right. So to me, it seems like that would violate sanitation laws, and it's just pretty much frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
Look, there's a church. I guess it's somewhere between half a mile and a mile away from me, that is not dedicated to any particular group of any religious group, but multiple groups use that church. Korean Catholics use that church. Independent groups use that church. I'm just thinking, I don't believe the people who own the building would be very happy about human blood being brought into the building.
Yeah.
You're not bringing human blood in my house.
Yeah. Unless you're going to get shot and you're going to spill your own. Sorry.
You're not. You can't take human blood into Kroger. You can't take human blood into Walmart. So I'm not sure how they're going to do a Black Mass there. Of course, I could see somebody, sneaking things in, but they've made this extremely public.
Well, this is very popular also these days, Vic, not only with the sacrifice and the drinking of human blood, but people will come into the church, quote unquote, as a visitor, so to speak.
Yeah.
And come down to receive communion, but not partake. They'll receive it, but yet then they'll put it in a pocket.
Well, they're trying to steal the host.
Yeah, and then they'll desecrate it in the Mass.
And if you've got somebody like George around, then
we'd be going rampant right now.
Yeah. So here's what they say about the event. This is on their Facebook page, or the Facebook event for this. Join us at the Topeka Capitol building in Kansas as we dedicate the grounds and our legislature to the glory of Satan.
What?
We will be performing rites to the Black Mass and indulging in sacrilegious blasphemy.
Send that to me,
God
please.
will fall, and Kansas will be embraced by the black flame of Lucifer.
Somebody text that article to me because I'm gonna put it on social media and rant today.
So, again, I think you're going to find them walk a line where there's no human sacrifice, there's no actual blood involved. I bet you there will be stolen hosts at the event that will be used. But aside from that, I think everything else will be representative, right? It would not be actual.
Well, let me throw this in the mix and screw everything up. Okay, so they do all that. But what is the real problem? The real problem is if they have been given permission to do it. What kind of doors has the governor opened up? He has opened up his state to say, come unto me, Satan, and do what thou will.
So
nobody can argue against me.
Governor Kelly said while she disagrees with the content of the event, she stands by the group's First Amendment rights.
That's not First Amendment.
Of speech and expression.
Freedom of speech has nothing to do with religion.
Well, she said freedom of speech and religion. I think it's both. And I think this is something that we struggle with in this country when we and I lean libertarian. So
but my
thought on this is that it's allowable.
But because just as well as I do, I have the freedom of speech. I can say whatever I want to.
Mm-hmm.
But to have a service, we're not talking about having a abortion march for life or the other side for their rights out on the streets, holding the picket signs, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine as long as it don't get violent. But to have a religious service at that building is totally asinine for me and not lawful.
Okay. So here's the only way I support what you're saying.
Okay.
Is if no religion is allowed to perform a service there.
Yeah, I agree with Dave. I mean, this is...
So, if no religion is allowed...
I can agree with that.
They can't be allowed either.
I will agree with that. For the simple purposes of there's nothing demonic going on there. I agree with that, and I can continue to pray and bless that building. But I'm not having a service there and consecrate. Listen, setting it apart, setting the state apart. That's what they're talking about. Setting the whole state apart for Satan.
Okay. Let's do a variation of this.
Okay.
A satanic priest stands on the curbside, on the sidewalk, and performs a consecration of the state building for Satan.
First off, are there satanic priests? I mean, within a few months, maybe a lot less than that, I will have to call Josh Father Josh.
Right.
Okay, which I'm happy to do. Okay, and I know the work that he has gone through.
God help him.
He will.
Because I'm going to push a lot of my junk on him.
Now, I know.
He don't know yet. He don't know.
But that's your job, is to... Okay,
all the physicalities, the heartaches, yes. Welcome to the ministry. Join the ministry, they said. But go ahead, Vic.
But Josh earned the right for me to call him Father Josh.
He did.
Okay, earned that legitimately. What is the counterpart in the Satanic Church?
Well, there is a counterpart in the Satanic Church for everything in God's church.
Yeah.
That's how it works. It is
yes,
a mockery.
I know, but is there a priest, and how does one, because look, I guarantee you, in Pennsylvania there are probably 30 seminaries that someone can go to and come out of there and be called a priest if they wish. But I don't think there are any satanic seminaries where you can go and you can, get the proper training to be called whatever they call you.
Let's roll this back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In order to be a priest in 101 common era, BC, BCE, what did you have to do to be a priest?
Hello. This is Avalon Leanne Danquah Smythe. Isn't Dave cute when he struggles with historical date definitions? He's just like a pudgy, squishy, diminutive, cuddly, historically curious koala bear, munching on historical eucalyptus leaves from dawn till dusk. It makes me feel all fuzzy inside. Of course, that could be the continuing Mongolian deathworm flesh decay. I am improving. Well, let's set everything straight for our favorite little eucalyptus-addicted teddy bear. In about 525 AD, or BCE depending upon your preference, a monk named Dionysius Exiguus, whom everyone recognized as a righteously smart dude, introduced the idea of dividing all history into the time before the birth of Christ, referred to, reasonably enough, as BC, or before Christ, and the time after the birth of Christ as AD. AD does not mean after death. That would leave an extremely inconvenient 33-year gap. Plus, it would necessitate a third time division, something like DL or during the life of. No, that would not do. School kids would be perpetually confused, and they aren't getting any smarter, Instead, it means Anno Domini, or the year of our Lord. I like that. It's poetic, gentle, and sensible. Just to make things easier, good old Dionysius Exiguus decided that the years should be written with BC after the year number and AD before the year number. When asked why, he answered, "Go away, boy, you bother me. Oh, by the way, there is no year zero. Just go with it." Years down the road, some snooty academic types decided that dividing history based on the birth of Christ was somehow insulting to non-Christians. So, they changed BC to BCE, meaning before the Common Era. They never heard of the "if it ain't broke" axiom. Then, as they were on an academic power play roll, they changed AD to CE, meaning Common Era. Both BCE and CE go after the number. Of course, the entire world rejoiced for an academic solution to a problem that didn't exist. Either method is still acceptable, though the snooty academic types will sneer at you if you choose to use BC and AD. I'm not sure why they didn't ask me. Then we would simply have BA and AA, before Avalon and after Avalon. That would have been a far superior solution.
A bishop had to say, "You're now a priest."
A bishop had to say, "You're now a priest."
Welcome to the team.
Yeah.
Okay? You didn't have to go through seminary. You didn't have to get a degree. You didn't have to study 10,000 books. I mean, I'm sure there was a certain amount of belief you had to represent.
That
in
and
any
you had
of the
to study
major
to show yourself approved also.
Sure.
You
any
had
of the
to
major
grow up in the church and have a correct knowledge, so to speak. Even in the New Testament church after Christ, when the apostles went out, they trained new people to become priests. And yes, there is a laying on of hands. There's an apostolic succession. That's a good topic for one day, apostolic succession. But in the Church of Satan, okay, let's reverse this. To become a priest in the Catholic Universal Church, so to speak, you have a quote unquote mass and a laying on of hands and an anointing that goes upon to be placed upon this individual. If y'all can, please come to Josh's. It's amazing to watch. I weep the whole time I go to any.
One
of
thing
them.
to think about too is the word priest originally comes from the word presbytos,
Presbyter.
which means elder or father. So, I mean, they're just becoming
Pastor.
a father
Yeah.
of the Satanic Church.
And see, but see, I just described just a tenth of the service. Okay, all right. Now reverse that, Dave. You're going to have a black mass. All right, and in the same happenstance of that blood, they're going to use that blood to anoint this new person.
Mm-hmm.
In which they are in essentially in the Christian world damning themselves to hell right there,
Correct.
because a blood sacrifice, a demonic covenant has taken place. Remember, whenever you hear the word sacrifice, you got to think of the word covenant. And a blood covenant, which we partake of every Lord's Day, flip it over to the dark side. And there you go,
Yeah.
Vic.
So
Well, I'm gonna
got
I'm
the
gonna
same thing.
I'm gonna try to encapsulate this because this is something that we can't solve.
No, of course not. We're not even touching the surface of this.
Yeah, we can't solve. Okay, I live quite close to the Pennsylvania state capitol. Takes me half an hour to get there. I'm assuming that if they are doing consecrations in Kansas, that pretty soon you're going to have copycats, and they're going to be doing them in Louisiana and Georgia and Washington and Illinois and Pennsylvania.
Well, since my back's getting better, let somebody come to Georgia.
Well,
I'm
here's
gonna
what'll
be there.
happen. At
I'll
some
be
point,
arrested.
they'll be denied.
Yeah.
And then this will go eventually to the Supreme
Oh,
Court.
yeah.
Yeah, then you'll have
This is a Supreme Court case waiting to happen.
But I don't see, honestly, and I know Father Mike doesn't like this, I don't see any legal standing to deny them. If you allow anybody, if you allow Pope Francis to come in and have a 10-minute ceremony consecrating the capital of Pennsylvania to God,
But
you've got to go ahead.
Francis is the very one too, and he's probably the one that started the daggum avalanche and the snowball rolling downhill, going to bust hell wide open. He is the one that opened the Vatican up for such services.
That is true. He did. Now,
That's
look,
that's a
Francis
different show.
is Francis.
That's a
Let's not go
that's a
down
different
that
show.
rabbit
That's
hole.
Okay.
just
Just let me go on record
believe-
and say Francis is a heretic. That's just all I'm going to say.
What was the statement? The smoke of Satan is now in the Vatican.
Yes.
Was the word smoke?
The smoke of Satan has entered
Okay,
the Church of God.
The smoke of Satan is deeply in the government and the idea of the United States right now.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and that I think is one of the reasons that we have such incredible and horrible chaos.
I agree.
However, this is warfare. This is where the warfare comes in. So, if they are going to do a satanic consecration of the State House in Harrisburg, it's my job to be there,
Yeah. And it's
handing
the
out
job-
Saint Benedict medals, handing out
It's-
rosaries.
it is our job to
standing there praying, standing
Yes,
there
exactly.
saying, having a sign that says, "Do not sell your soul to Satan."
Yeah.
And then they're going to come over to me and they're going to say, "Well, you got to leave or we're going to arrest you." And that's where one has to genuinely say,
Are you willing
Okay.
to sacrifice being arrested?
I guess you arrest me.
Or
I will
wind
come
up
visit
going
you
missing,
in jail, Vic. I
depending.
promise.
What's that?
I said I will come visit you in jail, Vic. I promise.
You just need to bail him out, and
Now look, I think
Me too.
the people that are I think at least now the people that are arrested doing that, it's more or less crowd control.
Right.
Okay, you're under arrest. Get in this van. We're going to take your ass down to the jail. We're going to take your name and we're going to send we're going to send you home. Okay, that's all that's going to happen to me. But if you come back, then we're going to do something worse to you. Then it's my job to go back.
Mm-hmm.
My job to go back. I mean, this is the sort of thing where the rubber meets the road. In terms of, am I happy standing back and allowing official public policy to be that the State House has been consecrated to Satan? No, I'm not.
Vic,
I can't make any law keeping that from happening, but I can put my ass on the line.
Exactly. And that reminds me of a statement that Christ made to Peter. Peter liked to open his mouth every now and then, kind of like I do. But Christ looked at him and said, Are you willing? Are you willing to drink the cup that I'm about to drink and partake of the baptism that I'm about to partake of? That's what it's going to come down to. And we are so fortunate. I mean, you got to, as bad as it gets sometimes, we're very fortunate in America right now. But in other countries, you have people partaking of that cup and that baptism. Are we Americans willing to drink that cup? And unfortunately, I hope it changes now, because I agree with you about a certain person being a David, that some of this turns around. Notice how I didn't get politically involved there, right?
No, nobody would ever know who a certain person was.
I think that the last thing I'll say on this, and maybe we ought to.
Well, it's time to move on. Yeah.
But I will say that I don't think this is a bad thing.
Okay.
I think this is really, really, really raising awareness to the battle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in that respect, I think the governor's doing us all a favor. Let it happen. And then see how the country responds to it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the governor has any choice. I think that it's incumbent upon everybody who feels the way I feel to show up, I'm going to just say it, put their ass on the line.
Yeah.
And for the record, Mr. Hermanson is not suggesting that any of our listeners commit a crime.
No. But then, of course, it's also incumbent upon the Catholic Church and other churches to counter this however they can.
Yeah, I agree.
So what do you think? Lizard people, or pick another topic? Run another list.
We got to do another list.
Let's do another list.
All right. Two.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering what the Philistines part was.
Oh, those are the people that were being affected by the tumors.
Okay. All right.
And the golden mice.
Okay.
I mean, to me, that's a very strange set of things to offer to Jehovah as...
Josh, look that up, please, and explain to us what the heck this thing is. I can't imagine. I can see making a golden mouse, okay? Whatever the heck that means.
I wish my hemorrhoids were
But
golden.
how I heard that.
The golden hemorrhoid. The gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, no. No.
I would be a very rich man right now, Vic.
Oh.
I will not title this show "The Golden Hemorrhoid," although it is tempting.
I would just hate to be the one to have to harvest it. Ugh.
Oh my God! Oh, and I'd hate to be the one being harvested upon.
Where's that list, Vic?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, here we're gonna go. Okay. I don't think this is a great list, but it's what came up. Topic 1, smudging. Topic 2, shamanistic powers. And then I say VL, such as the stolen sewing machine or the sewing machine. Topic 3, Marfa Lights, Brown Mountain Lights, both of which I've actually seen. Topic 4, Stories of the Saints. Take it away, whoever wants to take it away. Topic 5, Infernal Name, and that's my favorite and yours, Azazel. And then topic 6, Jumping Frenchmen of Main.
Well, first of all, it's Azazel. Thank God JJ's not with us.
That's for you, JJ.
I'm not
Nobody-
digging any
nobody-
of
no-
them. I'm not
nobody-
digging
I
any
want to hear
of
the
them.
story about the lights.
Nobody even wants to know about the Jumping Frenchmen of Maine?
Jumping Frenchmen of Main.
Did you get that? Topic 6 is the Jumping Frenchmen of Maine.
Educate us. Let's talk
Is
about
he
it.
is he different than the Jumping Frenchmen of Vermont?
Well, this is French men.
Oh, men.
Yes.
Okay.
This condition is named after a group of French-Canadian lumberjacks who worked in northern Maine in the 1870s, also known as hyperexplexia. It involves an extreme reaction to stimuli that causes uncontrollable jumps and startle-induced falls. Most people first experience symptoms right after birth, a condition referred to as stiff baby syndrome. The syndrome can often be effectively treated with benzodiazepines. A drug class used to treat anxiety and seizures by slowing
This is
down
like those
nervous
lambs,
systems.
right? Those sheep.
Yeah, we got like
Fainting goats.
feigning.
Yeah,
lumberjack.
that's it. Feigning goats, whatever it is.
well-
They make a loud noise and they go stiff and they fall over.
Right, but it's jumping lumberjacks instead of feigning goats. Look, there's really nothing to talk about other than there apparently was a time when there were enough lumberjacks showing these odd neurological symptoms that it ended up in the literature.
Why, if there were so many of them, how did it originate, and why were so many affected with it?
I don't
That's
know.
what I'm wondering.
Maybe they were all exposed to the same toxin.
Toxin.
That's what I was wondering. Was there a toxin that
Could be
actually
something
caused
environmental.
this? Exactly.
Maybe it was like that X-Files episode, Vic. They cut down a tree and something came out and infected them all.
They
Dr.
cut down
George
the wrong tree.
Dr. George Beard was the first person to discuss it. Possible explanations. The exact cause of this disorder is unknown, but theories include an extreme conditioned response to specific situations influenced by cultural factors or a type of operant conditioning within a closed community. Garbage. They were exposed to X-File bugs in trees.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with. I mean,
It reminds me of a Constantine episode, but it wasn't lumberjacks, but it was a coal mining town where they got exposed with some kind of gas, and when everybody was going crazy. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Well, and it could be that they were all being visited by UFOs. Out there in the woods, you got lots of lumberjacks who've seen craft. Maybe there was some radiation exposure there that caused those symptoms.
Yeah, because I can't see any explanation except something happening to expose so many people to have the same disease at one time.
Has to be something.
So
Vic, what about these lights?
Yeah.
Okay, so, Texas is a pretty big place.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Texas is a pretty big place. So, if you want to go see the Marfa Lights, you've got to get to Marfa, Texas, which is probably a 9-hour drive west from Houston. And it's the same as the Brown Mountain Lights, which are in North Carolina. And these are, I suppose, they're earth lights. But if you go out there to Marfa, if you go up to Brown Mountain and wait in the evenings, you will see these lights that are doing mysterious things. Almost always. I mean, it's so common. And of course, the skeptics are saying, "Oh, that's just headlights." Refracting off.
Well, according to Wikipedia, it is automobile headlights being distorted by the warm desert air.
Yes, those headlights that they saw in 1880.
Yeah, really.
Well, they had some bright lanterns back then,
Right.
hanging from the horse's neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the lights have been reported for years and years and years and years, and you can see cars move in a specific manner. They move at a specific speed, in any part of the country, and you see these lights on Brown Mountain where there ain't no cars.
Well, and I guess, if you think about some sort of heat reflection, something like that, but that wouldn't be the case in North Carolina.
No,
You don't have any flat desert terrain.
You get hot weather in North Carolina. It gets up to maybe 100 degrees twice a year or something.
Yeah, but you don't have anything to reflect. I mean, you got
Right.
it's
Not in North
mountains,
Carolina.
trees.
Right.
It's-
No, I don't think either of these lights are based on headlights. Certainly in Marfa, you do have cars. So yes, some may be, but they've been reporting these since before there were cars, and they don't all behave that way. I don't think there's anything all that terribly mysterious about these. I think any place you've got moving earth, some degree of active volcanism, some possibility of
swamp gas?
crystalline swamp gas. Yeah, crystalline rock forms being compressed, creating electricity. I think you can get these lights.
All right, so how long was the light visible?
Oh,
when you saw it?
The couple of nights I was there? Well, I saw many, many lights. It wasn't like a one-time thing.
I've been through North Carolina, all over, and especially through the mountainous areas. I forget the name of the interstate, but it goes through the Asheville area and the Black Bear Mountain area and
That's
all
40.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's very little traffic through I-40 through that area. So to say it's headlights, I'm not buying that. But every time I've been through there, it's been daylight. I might have to go back.
Well, I don't know why. The interesting thing to me is why the skeptical community finds things like this so unbelievable. Explorers, cowboys, people out in the woods have reported this kind of stuff for centuries.
Well, it's the same thing that everybody that loves to go see in Alaska. But
What are we talking about? The
Northern Lights.
The Northern Lights, yeah.
So what's the difference? We can't have the same thing in the middle of the states?
Well, the Northern Lights are up at the sky. There's, everybody sees them. And when solar activity gets really high, you can see them. I've seen them in North Carolina, in Pennsylvania. Pretty rare.
They've had them this past year. They've had them as low as Georgia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because of the significant solar releases of plasma that they've had.
We had several people in Thomaston post it, and of course I didn't see it. I was in.
Yeah, you weren't in shape
pain.
to go.
No.
Yeah.
So
it never quite makes it to Florida. Each of those storms I've wanted to see, and we haven't quite gotten it. But so here's my question, Vic. When you observe these things, we're not talking about a flash of a light.
No, we're talking about
something you saw.
A cohesive light that is moving.
So to me, that takes electrical discharge out of it.
Oh yeah.
Why?
Because it's not going away. It's not flickering out. It's
No,
not.
you're creating
how
a
long
cohesive electrical plasma.
Okay.
With the word plasma there, it's going to hang
How
around.
far away would you say that this light was?
Boy, that's a really good question. A couple of miles.
Because I have seen videos, some of them spoofed, of ball lightning.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's not something that I could imagine seeing from miles away. It's small. It's not that bright.
Well, from in the dark. I mean, if you're talking a really dark part of the earth, you can see a candle for miles. It just doesn't. Your eyes are very sensitive to any light in a dark environment. So, what do they say causes the Brown Mountain lights? Government researchers, to train headlights or newly electrified homes situated on the ridge. Yeah. I mean, to me, there's nothing. I don't think there's anything not supernatural or paranormal about this. I sort of feel like they feel themselves to be gatekeepers. You know, if you let people get even anywhere close to something paranormal, then that's where they'll go, and they won't even listen to us anymore.
No, of course.
Yeah. So I guess we got a group of people, and everybody's got one of the old-fashioned spotlights. And shining it up into the air, and
Right.
making weird diagrams and stuff. Yeah.
Well,
that's
so the
what it
interesting
is.
thing that's listed here is they talk about them splitting and merging.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, that seems like an odd behavior for something generated by electrical activity. But you'd have to observe. I'd have to see it
to know what you were looking at.
Yeah. But now I want to see it.
Well, you're a lot closer to North Carolina than you are to Texas, Marfa, Texas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's just a straight drive, though, Texas. It's a really long one, but it's just straight down, 10.
I guess
Apparently, they have a festival.
30 hours of driving to get to Marfa.
So they have a festival, Josh?
Yep. City of Martha's page, they have a festival for the Marfa Lights.
Oh, yeah. And the city of Marfa would prefer them to be mysterious.
Oh, certainly.
Absolutely.
Because then you get a lot of people coming to see them. I remember
Brown Mountain ones, it says they're in Carolina County?
Carolina County for the
See,
Brown
it's
Mountain
Linville
light?
Gorge area of North Carolina.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're equally famous there in North Carolina. That
would be the really interesting one to me.
Because
to check out.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is diminishing forest.
What do you mean? You mean deforested areas, or
no? It's not. It's not deforested. I mean, have you ever driven through the Blue Ridge Parkway?
Oh yeah, I grew up. That's where I learned how to drive.
Yeah, well, you know what the Blue Ridge Parkway is like. I mean, you're seeing forested mountains as far as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, with a few places to pull over. That's what the Brown Mountain area is.
Yeah, it looks like a beautiful area to me.
Oh, it is. It is.
It's much like where I grew up,
but this is.
So that to me is interesting because it takes the flat seeing for massive distances out of it,
out of the equation.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And those are the only two that I knew of that I had seen, so I put those in the list. But I'm pretty sure there are these kind of lights all over the world.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Hey guys,
Uh-huh.
uh, I'm starting to get real stiff,
Okay.
which is going to lead to pain. I gotta
Okay.
bow out and go
No, you
walk or
you
something.
you you go stand in the shower, go walk,
I
do what
gotta go. Yeah.
you
Do
know.
what you need to do, Father Mike.
But
I
no,
mean,
I love my time with you guys. I just don't want to disappoint anyone.
no,
But I'm getting.
Not at all.
I don't want
no.
to get there. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna bow out and let y'all finish up, okay?
Okay.
And once again,
Thank-
All right.
I apologize.
Talk to you later, Father Mike.
You take care.
Anyway, I don't think that either the look. Do I think some of the lights in Marfa are headlights? Yeah. But this is the thing. When they do these government investigations, they don't report the reality of the situation accurately. Yes, there are lights that you can look at and you can. And here's another thing about cars. When you're someplace as flat as West Texas, the sound of that car driving by carries for a long time
Right.
and a long way. And you can hear it. You can hear the shh. And you can hear it as it starts to fade into the background. There are lights that do not move like that, and there are lights where that sound is not heard. And there are lights in the rain. The few times that it rains out there.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like the ones in North Carolina.
Mhm.
And I think I was wrong on the county. I think it's Burke County, their website. But they have a team that investigated it for years. That actually got published on some of their results.
Right.
The Lemur team, LEMUR, out of Asheville.
Yeah.
They did some publication in 2004, and for something that, look, I know investigation teams. When you have a local activity of some type, I mean, it is just over and over and over again investigated, and if it's something that's explainable, it'll be found out. You'll figure it out. And if you have somebody like that go for a long time and they haven't figured out exactly what it is, there's something going on there.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to put that on my list of things to see.
A lot of folks are, of course, attributing it to UFOs flying around.
That's always a good one.
Always a good one.
I have seen videos of UFO. CE5 is this big thing that Dr. Green does. That's where you're doing meditation to create contact with aliens, and then you start having orbs and stuff show up.
Yep.
You go out as a group and you do this group meditation. I have seen video of those events causing orbs that actually come down and go through forest. You can see it, the lights peeking in and out of trees.
I've seen those same videos.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there is
It's
something
kind of
to
it's kind of
that.
cool how they sort of strobe as they come around a big tree.
Yep.
Okay, you'll kind of, because what you're seeing is the little trees that are in the way, that
Right.
kind of create this strobe effect.
Yep.
And there,
Yeah. So, I mean, that is associated with some type of UFO or, interdimensional or some type of activity.
so Josh, are there any Earth mysteries around Thomasville? Or you got any lake monsters? What's the local Bigfoot? What's what's that?
Not near us, but in surrounding counties, there's things like apparently Bigfoot's been spotted around Pike County, and Lake Lanier is one of the biggest hot spots in Georgia.
What did they have in Lake Lanier?
Well, a woman that is often seen during the night walking across the water,
Yeah?
Ooh,
like
that's different.
a woman in white type thing.
Mm-hmm. But across the water, that's a new spin.
Mm-hmm.
Is Lake Lanier a natural lake or a man-made lake?
Man-made.
Man-made lake.
Man-made.
Is it one of those lakes where they just dammed the thing up and filled it up, and everything that you had before is still under the water?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those lakes have lots of problems.
Yeah, Lake Lanier Reservoir. Yeah, man-made.
Well, I've spent a lot of time on Fontana Lake, North Carolina and Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
You know, huge, massive lake. And the same thing, just dammed up the river. It fills up over time. And if you live there, your home is gone.
Right. Well, and the thing is, like, I grew up around Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia, and same deal, right? The Appalachian Power put in the dam, filled it up. There's houses, there's
Right.
power lines. Everything that was there is still there.
It's still there.
And so you have, I'm sure there's plenty of old family plot cemeteries that are now underwater.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have a lot of deaths associated with that. You know, I don't know about the lake you're talking about, but Smith Mountain Lake, every summer, high school kids would die at the beginning of the summer. They'd
Same
all
thing.
go out and party,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd get drunk, and then they go swimming, and they would dive down, and they get caught in something
Right. Mm-hmm.
because it's not normal lake bottom. There's tops of trees. Again, there's wires and stuff like that, and then they don't come back up. And so there's always deaths associated with those types of lakes.
Apparently part of the town is under Lake Lanier too.
Yeah, well,
That'll do
I
it.
mean, Fontana Lake, at least the areas I know, the old towns are down there, but they're pretty deep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like 60 to 90 feet deep. So you're not getting down there unless you have gear. And
Yeah, Smith Mountain's not like that.
okay,
I mean, it's it's in the mountains, so
Right.
yeah, the middle of it's deep,
the middle of it's deep, yeah.
but the edges, aren't. And it's not like they went in and mowed stuff down before they filled it up.
Totally meaningless story. We went canoeing on Fontana Lake one year.
Mm-hmm.
My sons and I bought a new canoe. Went out there and had a blast. But we got lost. Okay, so we've canoed down to the park museum, where they show the history of this place.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were canoeing back to our camp. And the way that that's set up is you've got inlet after inlet after inlet after inlet after inlet.
Yep.
And they all look exactly the same.
Feeder creeks and streams. You go back up and
Right. And so we're going along. Let's check this inlet. Nope. Let's check this one. Nope. And we had gone way past our inlet.
mm-hmm.
And it's getting dark. And we didn't have any idea which inlet to go back to. And so we were sort of between counties, and we had one cell phone among us. The boat had capsized earlier in the day, and my cell phone and my older son's cell phone had both been destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So my younger son's cell phone was still working, but we didn't have any signal. So the idea.
Boy, that's a long day happening right there.
So the idea then was to canoe till we found a signal. Okay, and then we went over to the shore. We kind of moored the boat. We kind of moored the canoe, and the banks there were very, very steep. So the land from the bank was 12 feet above us. Mm-hmm. And we finally got in touch with we called 911, and they said, "Well, where are you?" I don't know.
We're on the lake.
I don't know. You know, we're some miles east of the visitor center. And they said, "Okay." And so finally we got to the right person, and they had to send a boat out for us.
Yeah. I think it calls like that all the time.
Yeah, they had to send a boat out for us.
Departments around these lakes. And people don't realize, when you think of a lake, you think of, this round body of water that, is... It's not consistent. You have no clue. If you don't have a map, or you didn't grow up on it, or you haven't been out with somebody who knows it over and over again, you really can't tell where the heck you are.
Well, when they finally came to get us, my son, my older son, whom I'm very proud of, we were talking to the ranger. He says, "Well, thank you for coming to get us." I said, "You ever seen any Bigfoot on the lake?"
Oh, really? Nice. An opportunist. Great question.
And he said, "Well, I've seen things on the lake I don't quite understand. I'm not sure they were Bigfoot." But
that's a great answer, because that means yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that means. Because if he hadn't seen it, he'd have gone, no, haven't seen anything out here.
He said, "Yeah, over the years I've seen things that I can't quite explain, but what they were, I can't tell you."
Yeah, that means he saw a Bigfoot. That's great. Got to ask those questions.
So I got the story right here. She's called the Lady of the Lake on Lake Lanier.
Oh, cool. Uh-huh.
Supposedly the ghost of Delia Mae Parker.
Okay.
Back in the 1950s, her car went off Browns Bridge into Lake Lanier, and she was found 31 years later. They found the body of her. And
okay.
I often see her walking across the lake in a blue dress.
In a blue dress. That's a great one. I mean, not for her, but it's a great story. I like it.
Well, so have you ever
really
seen...
hard to investigate, too. Had to go out in a boat.
At night.
With your EMF detector and recorders, and that could be fun.
Just casually paddle up to a ghost.
All right, guys, want to try to do one more?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I have a reasonable list here. Topic 1, ghost hunting apparatus. Somebody might know about that. Topic 2, why is the mainstream media so bad at reporting paranormal topics? Topic 3, face on Mars. Topic 4, Chung Ling Soo. Topic 5, the man from Tared. And topic 6, the Valley of Headless Men.
What's Chung Ling Soo?
Hang on one second. I want to see what the Valley of Headless Men is.
Vic, you put it on the list, right? You're supposed to know these things.
I know. I really... The Valley of Headless Men. It has to do with the old European view of different lands having different monsters. Okay, and you've seen these drawings. There'll be a man who kind of just stops at the top of his torso. Instead of having a neck and a head growing off of it, he has eyes in his chest and a mouth in his chest. Things like that. I probably need to do some more research before I can talk about that real reasonably. But they did used to, I don't know, various biologists, various commentators would talk about there being places where the men have dog heads or the men have no heads. That was pretty common. Chung Ling Soo was a professor named William Ellsworth Robinson, who was a magician almost at the same level as Houdini. Back when the world was dominated by vaudeville and that kind of thing. And he often would... Did you ever see the movie... oh, man. What's it called?
The Reveal?
No, I think it's called...
My favorite magician movie.
I think it's The Reveal? Or is that The Prestige?
Oh, The Prestige.
There's
Sorry.
the Prestige,
Reveal.
and then there's the
Prestige.
Illusionist.
There's The Illusionist, and then there's The Prestige. The Illusionist happens in Germany. Correct? And it's kind of a romance. It's a love story.
Right.
But The Prestige happens somewhere up in the northeastern United States.
Yeah. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I like that movie
Because
too.
I like the ending. I like how the trick was done. That was really cool.
Very mysterious how the trick was done. But anyway, they're trying to figure out how this one magician does things. And that's supposed to be Chung Ling Soo. Okay, old man, robes. He had built this whole apparatus to hold a big fishbowl between his legs. And he was walking like a man who was in pain all the time. And so he just lived this character. So he comes out of the theater just like an old man who's just barely struggling along. Makeup and everything. And he's really only like 35 years old. And he's able to walk just fine. That was Chung Ling Soo. That was Chung Ling Soo. Chung Ling Soo, I think, was the first guy in the U.S. to do the caught bullet illusion.
That's where I've heard the name from. The bullet catch trick.
The bullet catch trick, yeah.
It looks like that's what killed him.
That's how I
According
remember it.
to Wikipedia, he is mostly remembered for extensive use of yellowface in his act to falsely represent himself to be Chinese, who spoke little English, as well as for his accidental death due to a failed bullet catch trick.
Failed bullet catch trick.
Oops. Yeah, that's not a trick I want to try.
Well, I've seen the bullet catch trick on TV. I've never seen it live. But I think a lot of people have died from that.
Yep.
That's because those things move pretty fast.
Well, the idea is you're not catching anything. Okay, I mean, the idea is that you've got a magnetic bullet, and of course they always use an old muzzle loading rifle, and the idea is that you put the ramrod down there, which has a magnet on the end, and it pulls the bullet out, and then somehow that is handed secretly to the person who's supposed to be catching the bullet, and it's in his mouth the whole time. Well, apparently they screw that up sometimes. I think in the Prestige they screwed it up deliberately, didn't they? To blow this guy's hand off?
I remember the Prestige. Isn't that the one where they were cloning him? He was cloning himself each time?
Yeah, he goes out to find Nikola Tesla and says, look, I want you to build me a trick that nobody can do better. And that the person playing Tesla is David Bowie.
Mm-hmm.
Is that who that was? Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen
I think it's David Bowie.
And I think ain't the magician played by was it Christian Bale?
Yeah, Christian Bale. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so he played two roles. He played his brother and himself. All kinds of spoilers here. I mean, there was one very cool part of the movie where one of the brothers was married to this wonderful girl. Okay, she was loving and kind and devoted, and really, really loved Christian Bale. But sometimes the other brother would come home and pretend to be her husband. And I guess he pretended in all aspects of the marriage. And he would say, I love you. And she'd say, oh, you made it today. That makes me happy. And then, and then sometimes he'd say, I love you. And she would say, no, you don't mean it today. And of course, she was simply sensing the fact that the other brother didn't really love her.
Right. Yeah, Hugh Jackman was the guy I remember.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman was was one of the magicians.
Yep.
Let's see. I'm trying to figure out.
And it was David Bowie was Tesla. I just remember the brutal way that he did that trick.
Right. So every day, somebody dies.
Somebody dies. Yep. But I can tell you from shooting a muzzleloader, because that's what I usually hunt with. But I have a replica old style muzzleloader that was my dad's. It's actually a 54 caliber.
Wow, that'll take you apart.
Yes, it will. But a ball isn't so bad. But any bullet you put down in that, it is designed to hold. They don't just roll back out like they do in the movies.
Right.
You shove a lead ball in there, it is wedged, and actually you have to use a puller. You have to screw into it with a different attachment to the rod to drag a bullet out of it.
That's how you get the velocity. I mean, if you were just sitting down there loose, you wouldn't be getting any velocity.
Oh yeah.
A lot of fun to shoot though.
So,
yeah, high risk trick, definitely.
So anyway, I mean, I guess since none of us know a whole lot about Chung Ling Soo, other than he died from the bullet trick, and that he was a very devoted magician in terms of he was like a method actor as magician. Right. Okay, he maintained that role all the time. But so anyway, at the very end, I wonder who was left. I mean, was that the real original guy? It couldn't have been. I can't imagine how it could have been the original guy. I mean,
you're talking about in the Prestige?
Yeah, in the Prestige. That must have been clone number 86.
The clone was the one that survived. The original guy never did. That was the irony of the trick.
Yep.
The irony of the trick is the magician had to die every time. The guy who survived was not the one who did the trick.
Okay, so that was clone 86, shall we say?
Right. And the next day, clone 87 is the one who lived.
Clone 87.
Clone 86 died. That's showing the dedication to the art. Is every day, each clone was willing to die for the trick to go on.
Well, of course. I mean, they had all the original memories and thoughts and ideas and passions of the original of the original.
Yep. Great concept in a movie. It was original. You don't see much original stuff anymore.
So that was Jackman. That was either himself
Hugh
or
Jackman.
He was dying every night.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember there was a scene showing a basement where there were dozens of these.
Yes, the tanks with the bodies in them. Yeah.
Dozens of these tanks with these bodies, but
I'm gonna have to rewatch that now.
Well,
but it is interesting from there's a path to go down is the idea of a clone, because
remember
if you clone somebody, do you get the memories?
Remember the scene with all the hats on the mountainside?
Mm-mm.
Well, Tesla would make a hat disappear. And then the question was, well, damn it, there's another hat gone. And then out on the mountainside next to his home, or next to Wycliffe,
that's right.
There was a whole field. There was a whole field of hats.
Yep.
And so anyway, that's a good question. I mean, is this an actual? This is like a digital representation of the original, and it seems like you would eventually start to get transcription errors.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Just like a carbon copy. It's lighter and lighter.
Lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter.
Fades. You know, does the soul sort of fade as it gets copied?
That's a really, really good question.
Does the personality change?
Mm-hmm.
You know, does
Less and less memory each time.
Wow. All right. So one of the Christian Bale characters was going to be executed, correct?
I don't remember.
Okay. The woman...
I remember the ending.
The woman...
the part that I thought was really cool.
The woman married to the Bale brothers committed suicide when she found out that she had been having relations with two men, only one of which was her husband.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she checked out. Nope, don't want to be here.
Okay, that was too much.
That was too much. One of the brothers was accused of murder and found guilty. I'm not sure who he murdered. I got to watch the movie again.
Well, I remember enjoying it quite a bit.
Well, wasn't there a woman who was part of the act at the very beginning, and they were doing some sort of escape act, and they didn't tie the right knot?
Yeah, she ended up. I think she died. Yeah,
I think she died. Yeah, she couldn't get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of magicians, did you know that Harry Houdini, who's really fascinating, was probably a spy?
I did not hear.
Well, you've talked about him before. I don't remember the spy part. I remember you talking about him trying to find real.
Oh yeah, he was always trying to find real paranormal activity.
Practitioners.
Yeah, real psychics, that kind of thing. But
so who was he a spy for?
The U.S. Because he was somebody who could go essentially anywhere. Okay, so he could go to Moscow. You know, I'm going to book a series of shows in Moscow. And so he went to Moscow, and one of the things he did to promote his shows was he would always go to the local constabulary and ask them to lock him up. You know, and they all thought they had the world's most secure jail.
Right.
And so they'd put him in there naked, or essentially naked, and leave him alone. And then by the time they got back, he was out of his cell. He had taken all the other prisoners out of their cells and put them in different cells.
That would be so much fun.
Put them in different cells. But in Russia, they had this cart that was the prisoner transport cart. And they considered it 100% secure. So they put him in the prisoner transport cart, and he escaped from that too. And then they were angry. But
I bet.
But anyway, he would...
Do we know how he got out of the cart?
No. Houdini
never
didn't.
Revealed. Huh?
Houdini never revealed these things. I mean, you look, Houdini cheated most of the time.
I figured.
You know, that was that was his way of getting out of some of these things. Now, he did escape from a few things where experts in the field are not really sure how he cheated. It doesn't make any sense how he could have cheated. But anyway, the idea was he could go anywhere in the world. He could talk to high-level people. So whether he was doing the direct spying or just taking reports from people who were already embedded, I don't know. But, yep, Houdini was probably a spy.
It's a pretty good gig if you can get it. Travel the world, meet interesting people, break out of their jails.
He was the highest paid entertainer in the world for a while.
Wow.
Do you know who the highest paid entertainer was that he displaced?
No clue.
Well, they call him now Le Petomane. His real name was Pujol. He was a French performer. And his act involved the fact that he could perfectly control his flatulence. He had...
Only on the rundown, folks. Only on the rundown.
He was a huge deal. I mean, he had his own theater in France. So shows sold out forever.
To hear his flatulence.
Well, it wasn't just flatulent like a guy at the bar. I mean, he could play trumpets. He could he could.
Wow.
He had a whole comedy routine, of here is the fart of a bride on her wedding night, kind of thing or something. Here is the fart of a bride, a month into the marriage, and
now, please tell me that you can find some recordings of these things so that you can insert that in here.
I don't know if there were such things as recording devices when Le Petomane. Surely, Josh, you've looked up Le Petomane by now.
I have nothing coming up.
Let's see. Pujol, Le Petomane, Joseph. Just type in Google, type in Pujol, Pujol, Le Petomane.
Yeah, there's recordings.
Okay,
there's
we
recordings
definitely need to find a recording.
Hello. This is Avalon Lian Dankwa Smile. As it turns out, there are indeed actual recordings of Le Petomane or Joseph Pujol demonstrating his unique sphincteresque talents in front of a truly appreciative French audience. He was the world's best-known flatulist, a fartiste extraordinaire. Here is part of a recording of him in 1904. I'll simply say that what he lacks in dynamic range, he more than makes up in enthusiasm and zeal.
Lors de sa visite au roi des bêtes. Derrière. Devant. Fait d'une personne constipée. Fait d'un cheval au trot. Fait d'un cheval au galop. Fait de l'éléphant en mat d'enfant.
Outstanding. And on that note,
Would that be a
literally,
round note?
take us out.
Wait a minute. I've always loved the idea of Le Petomane. And okay, so think about this. Blazing Saddles. Remember Blazing Saddles?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, remember they're building a road or a path or a trail or something. It's going to be the Le Petomane Thruway.
Oh, yeah, yes, I remember that now. Yep.
It's going to be the Le Petomane Thruway. And somebody went out and stuck a toll booth there. You can go around the toll booth, no problem. But all these bad guys are lined up, and Slim Pickens says, "Well, damn! Now somebody's got to go back and get a shitload of dimes." And so, all right. Anybody got anything they want to close this out with? Since I know I've been evil. I know I kept bringing up these things that.
No, that's not evil. That is just the rundown.
That's the rundown.
I found a 30-minute video of him, and I just posted it.
A 30-minute, well, it'll be a 30-minute film that they've turned into video. Yeah. But I guess
Outstanding.
All right. Okay, well then I guess we're
This will be the episode of Golden Hemorrhoids and classical farts.
well, they called him the Fartiste.
Artistic farts.
All right. So, this is why we need guests.
This is probably true.
All right, guys. I guess I'll call it good, and we'll do an outro later.
Sounds good.
Thanks for your time.
Y'all take it easy.
Bye.
Do.
Bye.
Hi, this is Vic Hermanson again, signing off, or at least I will in a minute. I looked for some kind of little ditty, some kind of little song that they wrote about Petomane. Say back in 1910, they did a lot of that sort of thing. Couldn't find anything. That's okay. He was the highest paid entertainer in the world. You know, keep that in mind when you're spending $300 for a Taylor Swift concert, or more. That at one time, the Petomane held that spot. I'll let you guys argue about who had more natural talent. The Paranormal Rundown is produced and written, as much as that is written, by myself, Dave Griffith, J.J. Johnson, and Father Michael Birdsong. Any music you heard is from Lobo Loco, Smart Sound, or was in the public domain. If we ever use any media clips, which we actually did in this show, we do so under the protection of the Fair Use Doctrine. Since that record was from 1905, I don't think we have a lot to worry about on that one. We still would really love to hear about how entertaining, offensive, ugly, horrible sounding, whatever you want to say about us. Please write us at feedback@paranormalrundown.com. We're looking forward to it. Anyway, in 2 weeks from now, we will have a new show. And in this one, we will have a guest. And it is an excellent show. Thanks so much for your time. Bye-bye.